All right, back at it. Big D Energy, Woodward Sports Network. I know a lot of you have been waiting for this segment, and we all saw what happened to Dylan Larkin by the stick of Matthew Joseph on Saturday night. The reaction to that, David Perron, it was announced, has been suspended 6 games. Who, by all rights, I'll call it a very vicious hit to the head as well. But D-Mac, again, this is, the people have asked about it. You haven't talked about it much on social media. This is your platform. This is where you live. And I'm fascinated to hear this. But your statement on that whole situation with Matthew Joseph, Dylan Larkin, David Perron et al.
Well, if anybody saw the tweet that I put out, I put a tier and I put out NHL. And the whole thing is that, the old guy, get off my grass, whatever like this. The problem that I have, and we'll start with the Perron. Yeah, I'm with his history, and I can't condone that. Hitting a guy with the stick like that, especially when it wasn't the guy that got Larkin to begin with. I love the fact that you're making stuff happen, sticking up for your teammate. You're gonna, unfortunately, he's gonna miss 6, games of pay and stuff like that, and
that's what I don't like.
Lost in the lineup, and. You know what? Like that is what it is. But the whole thing with the Joseph on Larkin hit, to me, it's the fact that guys are comfortable enough taking shots and having your stick that high in that sort of, and you could say it was an accident or this, but you watch go look at Joseph's interview. There's not a remorse there. It's sort of like, things happen and, didn't mean for it to happen and stuff like this. But no, the fact that you were comfortable enough holding your stick up there. I was talking to you beforehand, and I played with some of the toughest guys and against some of the toughest guys to ever play this game. Standing out front of the net back in my day was war. Thomas Holmstrom had equipment on the back side of his body to protect him from getting hit and behind. But no matter if you were in front of the net with a Chris Pronger, Scott Stevens, no matter who it was, you would get worked over from your shoulder pads down. You might get slashed in the back of the legs, you might get cross-checked, but it would never be to the head. And the fact that guys are comfortable, right, taking shots or taking liberties with the sticks coming up, hence we haven't even talked about what, this goes back to the carelessness of a guy who just took a skate in the throat over in Britain, and another guy thinks it's all right to have his skate that high, right? So back in my day, Neal, right, you'd fight, you get an altercation, there'd be bad blood. Guys would maybe lose a tooth, break a nose, get stitches, right, and come right back. You would see that physical. Now what we're dealing with is more of the CTE, more of the concussions, more of the invisible problem, right? Somebody asked earlier, what's the diagnosis of Dylan Larkin? And I said, well, I thought that it was said that he didn't have a concussion and he was everything was negative, but yet there's no timetable for his return. So that means that everything's not A-okay. It's just unfortunate, and I hang my head. And the only other thing is the hardest part in the self-discipline is that, like, if I look back and go, what would have happened if that was Yzerman? Whether you meant it or not, back in the day. You think we're worried about those 2 points?
No.
Or wait until the game was out of hand and then doing something? I ain't worried about this. So it's bigger than that, and it also goes to that's the culture of the game now. So my reaction is I'm not surprised because it's Batman hockey in the way that the NHL's gone. So it's the fact. My thing is the fact that it's okay for a guy to think it's okay to get his hands up. Because that would never happen back in the day. A stick up like this. If you're going to hit somebody in the head, it was with your fist.
Is it that simple, D-Mac? Because I know because I've talked to you and we're friends, obviously. I know with the frustration, and I know where it lies, right? And you said it without saying it. You kind of said it a little bit. And it's not old guy yelling at clouds. It's not, or get off my lawn guy. It's not that. What the game has evolved to has allowed for this to happen now. And when I say what it's evolved to is when you take the, and I don't want to call it fighting because that's not the word. You're not saying fighting. Accountability. Is that a fair word to say?
And that's the accountability. And I see all in capitals, ski mask or whatever. Wait, they were calling for the trainer. And I love the thing that I love the most out of it is Brady Tkachuk, who's one of our most hated guys or whatever, was the first one to go to his bench because he knew something's wrong. That's above the game, right? We're talking two different things. So even to push what's acceptable to the lines, but the lines of the game is it's going to happen, and you have to. I don't care what it is. You have to show back in the confines of the game that this can't happen. So the fact that, okay, so you disagree, so he hurt a guy, but he did absolutely cross-check him in the side of the head, whether he meant it or not. And that can't happen. I'm sorry, I shot you. You know, it was an accident, but you still shot. What were you pointing the gun at me for? You know, unfortunate situation. I'm glad that the humanitarians and the hockey players superseded it, which goes to show you the brotherhood, but it's just the fact that inside the rules that this can go on. That's all I'm saying, because it needs to be addressed.
All right, last one on it before we get to the break. How does it get addressed in your world right now? Well, I shouldn't ask your world because your world is not the world we're in today.
See,
in your best guess.
See, now it's going to linger. Now everybody's going to think, oh, it's got to be done. It's got to be done. Then you're going to, so you have to worry about that and getting revenge and all. No, you take care of it then it's done. And then you move on to the next game in Dallas, the next game in St. Louis, instead of worrying about the game in St. Louis. Everybody's talking about the game New Year's Eve against Ottawa. Yeah. So it's different because, you know, if it was my day, you could sure as heck put something out to say, I'll see you at center ice, open and draw, you know, New Year's Eve. Let's do it. Yeah. Right? And it's done. So the fact that it lingers and the fact that it's okay for somebody to take that sort of exception, whether it was intentional or not. Part of the game, but part of the game is also not allowing that to happen, especially to your captain. I'm just saying, like, what if that... Do you know what would have happened if Kobe's on the bench?
Would there have been a riot, D-Mac? Like an on-ice riot?
It would have been like Buffalo. There's a highlight video of 5-on-5 where Stevie ended up having to fight Buffalo's tough guy back in the day, Kevin McGuire. Proby got loose and came sliding on his knees, freaking sucker punched, whatever. Like, it would have been an absolute shit show. Right? On the ice, whatever like this, figure it out later. Back in my day, probably end up with like 3 or 4 guys on the bench. But it's a different game. And that's okay, but I just wish that there was more, you know, it's the respect for each other.
We're off and running Lions game week, the home opener this weekend. It's crazy. Everything's going on. And we do have to talk about it. The C.J. Gardner-Johnson, how he caused Amazon to sell out a blue face mask. He said, we're going to play the villain, and if we're going to be the villain, then let's go all the way. I want to see the face mask everywhere. And look, I love the way C.J. Gardner-Johnson said, we're the villains, right? It's a part of us. It's the culture. I'm changing it. He's worth every dollar already. Every dollar already.
He was before even the first game.
He had one of the best quotes I've ever heard in my entire life come out of a Lions player. He said, no more paper bags. We're wearing ski masks. We're taking what's ours.
There you go.
The one thing
that gets me going.
No, here's the one thing, right? Winners recognize winners. And you know what? We recognize in this room that there's a bunch of winners. And when I saw that, because I know what winners look like and been that vibe, is that he's right. That ain't no bullshit. That ain't nothing. You got a bunch of winners in there. The past don't mean anything to these guys. It's what they've built. And we touched on it early on. The Lions are what? The third best team
since week
9 of last year. Now, wouldn't you say that's when they found their mojo, their groove sort of been together, and it's proven. Look at the last 2 games, guys. Things that had never happened, would never happen. Going into Green Bay in front of the nation, last game of the year, and busting their hopes and dreams of the playoffs and winning that game, and then starting the year out against the Super Bowl champions in Kansas City against one of the arguably the best quarterback right now, and who knows if he's going to be of all time, and going in and winning, and against Andy Reid, right? The coach too. So, I mean, these guys are for real, and they believe in each other. And when they tell you that, it's cool for the ride. And you know what? He wants to wear ski masks and be a villain. Where's my ski mask, man? So, you know, like, I'm all in.
Yeah, and you look at it too, D-Mac, like you talked about that game in Green Bay. And I'll preface this. You never want to see anybody get hurt. However, Aaron Rodgers' last pass he ever threw still was intercepted by Kirby Joseph. That still holds.
Factual.
That's still factual.
That's factual.
I still have the autographed picture at home.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I will keep that forever. That is one of my favorite pieces of memorabilia I own for a lot of reasons. WoodwardSports.com chat thread. Lots of chatter about the ski mask and Jeff Iafrate. Like this, Detroit Dabber 313. Jeff would cut off the top of his ski mask so you could still see his hair.
Of course he would. Of course he would. He needed it about 6 months ago when he had to cut his hair, and it was like the end of the world. So he's gonna make a stupid bet
How
probably
does
this
Flannel
football
hate
season.
it? I don't understand how.
Well, we're gonna get the
Listen, how
answers.
does Flannel? You know, I know he's married, and so he gets laid. He told us all
Yeah.
that. We'll have to address that if we can
I
bring
got the
that
video,
up too.
yeah.
I gotta address. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I mean,
Anyways,
Yeah,
we'll get to
absolutely.
Flannel when it's Flannel time. But who knows? Why does Flannel do what Flannel does?
I don't know. Shout out to Ashley Abernathy. Welcome to the Woodward crew. Appreciate you jumping in on there. Nobody says, dude, I'm not from Detroit. Can I still rep Detroit with my heart and soul? You can, as a matter of fact. WoodwardSports.com/shop. Jump in there. We got all the goods. Get you a Meat Missile shirt.
Hell yeah.
Get you a free JMO shirt.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it. Go all the way. Let's go all the way. And you know, I love it, and because I'm into that kind of stuff. And D-Mac, you touched on it, and we've seen time after time after time this be the case. Like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, when winners come in, we're seeing it with Coach Prime. He doesn't accept anything else.
Right.
Period. D-Mac.
And
It's
winners
complicated.
came in with them. Cam Sutton's in the backfield
Yes.
too. And there, Brian Branch is a winner coming from Alabama. The culture, stuff like this. We're specifically talking in the backfield. Emmanuel Mosley coming from San Francisco. The coaching staff, right? It's definitely all hands on deck. But everybody's bought in.
Yes. And again, I like the fact that when you see people that come in, that's what they do. Again, going back to a Coach Prime, that's what he's done. He's always been a winner everywhere he goes. And he says that. I've been a winner, a difference
he
maker
said,
everywhere I've been.
This is me, and I do me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people just are uncomfortable because I accomplished what I put my mind to.
But Spenny, you know, I know that C.J. Gardner-Johnson's getting a lot of the credit for this, and rightfully so. I just don't want it to go overshadowed, to be missed, to not let the people know. You were first to this.
It's true.
You bought the very first ski mask in the Metro Detroit area.
That is true. I did a live on air a couple days ago after I saw Chauncey Gardner-Johnson wearing the ski mask running around. I bought it, and then the next day he made the call for all fans to buy them.
How do you like that?
Well, it doesn't surprise me. Spenny's, ahead of the curve. Man on the
Absolutely he
streets.
is.
That's what I do.
Brandon Katz on brand. Gardner-Johnson hasn't won anything. He's a good player, but he hasn't won anything.
He won NFC last year.
That is true. Easy does it. Amazon is sold out because Spenny bought them all, and he has a couple available.
Yeah, I got about 150 of them coming in. I'm going to be selling them $50 a pop at Eastern Market.
But he'll take
9:30,
40.
Shed 5.
But he'll take 40.
But I'll take 40.
Yes. Moldex wants to know, Spenny, you didn't already own a blue ski mask?
I did not know.
No, because they were all black, right?
were black,
I
yeah.
thought they were green.
Yeah.
It was funny though. One of the biggest pushbacks I saw about the C.J. Gardner-Johnson, other than Sam Flannel's idiocy, was the other stuff to where C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he had to put a tweet out and said, "Everyone, I'm not perpetuating violence or anything like that." Like, look, I'm pretty understanding of everybody, and I understand that what doesn't offend me might offend some other people, and I get all that, but that's the line for, like, bro, come on, enough, man, enough. It doesn't matter because on Sunday at Ford Field, there will over under on how many you think? 5,000?
Oh, more than that.
10,000?
Yeah, I would
Boner
say-
just chimed in and said, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if it's like the turnover chain, but when they turn it over, everybody puts their ski mask
Yeah,
on."
that would be sick.
That would
Amon
be
Ross
sick.
St. Brown tweeted.
Well, I think how many? Oh, I think it'll be 20,000.
Yeah, I think it'll be over 10,000 for sure.
Like a quarter of the building, right?
I can't wait, man.
Third. Yeah.
I can't wait. It's
Some
going to
sort
be
of mask,
electric,
because
man.
I'm going to count a black one because the guy couldn't get a blue one.
Yeah.
That counts. You're trying.
Yeah, you went in there and you tried. Super Racide, when are you guys opening the call line? Sam Flannel get your slot today, Racide. The people voted on it. Now remember, we'll do another vote after Sam Flannel's done.
Okay.
Super Racide and Sam Flannel for next
For
Wednesday.
next week, yeah.
What do you think? That's fair?
That's fair.
All right, I like it. I think that's what we can do. And I think what you can do tonight, as a matter of fact, check out Woodward Nights. That's right, we got Booner and we got Broder. Detroit's newest up-and-coming sports personalities every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Join Booner and Broder every single night to hear Detroit sports' hottest takes. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder from 8 to 10 p.m. on the Woodward Sports YouTube channel. So that is out there for you. Their show is off and running, doing a good job as well. Juice on the Box says, I'll pay $50 if Spenny signs it.
Autographs are free. I'm not charging for autographs.
Yeah, you just got to buy the ski mask for $50.
You just got to buy the ski mask for $50.
What a great guy, D-Man.
Yeah.
The autographs are free.
He's learned.
Yeah.
He's learned.
Yeah.
Proud of him.
Yeah.
He pays attention. Highly coachable in the back of his hockey card.
That's what I do.
Ryan's reaction, I'd rather hear you guys talk about Major League Baseball than take phone calls.
That's fair.
Oh, man. Billy Curtis, do you think we're going to see Gibbs go off this game? I did hear Dan Campbell this morning on that other station in town talking about that. He said he is going to get Jahmyr Gibbs even more involved. But people remember, man, some things have changed since we've last been good as an NFL franchise. Number one is dudes aren't getting 30 carries in a game.
Yeah.
That's not happening anymore. Dudes aren't even getting 30 touches in a game. So just remember that. I know it's been a minute since we've been good and since we've seen how things work. But please remember that. There will be a mix of the two running backs. And guess what? I'm cool with that because we've seen it work out very well before. When we come back, WoodwardSports.com chat thread. Adam Coleman, football is inching closer, slowly bricking up. Well, you know what? Unleash the brick, because here we are. It is time. We're kicking it off. The Lions nickel package.
Yes.
5 questions about your Detroit Lions. Let's do it.
All right, first question of the Lions nickel package. How big of a jump do you expect from Lee McNeil this season?
I mean, the weight thing that they're talking about is real. And interesting side note that I haven't heard a lot of people discuss. We talked about on the show. Slim down, not necessarily lighter. That was the goal. Lee McNeil still said he wants to play at 325. So this was a
Looking
guy.
like Aaron Donald out there.
That's what I'm saying. And like, look, we saw it with Aleem McNeil, right? Like, was he this big bright shooting star? But to me, Aleem McNeil, I know that I talk about Penei Sewell, how he's the one that turned this whole mentality around. But Aleem McNeil was the first one that was here that put numbers in the columns. Remember I talked about that at the very beginning, even through the 3-13 year. I was like, when he plays, there's numbers in the column.
I remember that.
After his name in the box score.
Those were grim times.
I'm not used to that. Like,
Yeah.
guys come in here, like guys who aren't first round picks come in here and do that. That's wild to me. I'm excited to see what it is. Now, believe it or not, you do have to learn how to play like that because it is different. But I'm hopeful it's a big jump. I mean, it'll take a minute. And Aleem McNeil's not Aaron Donald. He's not a superstar. You win with guys like Aleem McNeil, though, that do something.
Yeah, I actually expect a pretty big jump out of Aleem McNeil as well. When I heard about him losing all of that body fat, I didn't just like it, I loved it. I think that opens up a possibility for him to be more agile in the middle, to maybe be a guy who actually puts up bigger counting numbers, actually provides more interior pressure. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all. Last year he had 1 sack, 6 tackles for loss, and 7 QB hits. It wouldn't shock me if he pumps those sack numbers up to maybe 3 and has double-digit tackles for loss and QB hits, while also providing very good interior presence in the run game. Aleem McNeil is a guy that I think could really benefit this season, could really break out. And I wonder if the front office and the coaching staff had more confidence in Aleem McNeil than we ever thought. And maybe that played into them not going after a Jalen Carter when they had a chance, not going after Kalijah Kanzi or Brian Brzee when they had the chance. Maybe they thought they were better off than we thought they were all along. And maybe this is Aleem McNeil's year to show it. Wouldn't shock me at all.
I like it.
Second down.
I like it. Second question of the nickel package: which side of the ball will have more Pro Bowlers for the Detroit Lions?
I saw that question in the rundown, and like you're instantly trained to say offense because whenever you hear Pro Bowl, that's what you think is that it's instantly offense. I think that's going to rest on Kirby Joseph because this is a Kirby Joseph zone right here. Who, by the way, was rocking the free JMO shirt yesterday.
How yeah, he was.
That was pretty tight.
That was dope.
And he talked about it too because he got asked about it. And then he was made a bunch of non-comments about it. It was perfect.
Kirby's the man.
Kirby is the man. Does Kirby have that in him to do it the way we've been hyping him up?
Maybe. Wouldn't shock me.
When it doesesn't matter what Spenny sets the over at with he's like over under interceptions for Kirby Joseph 15. We're over.
Well,
like it doesn't. There isn't a line that you can set. It's because I think Hutch will be there, right? You told me that.
Yes,
will be there.
I think so.
It rides on Houston following it up, and it rides on Kirby Joseph.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson will be there.
He'll be there because of a body of work.
Cam Sutton.
You see what I'm saying? Like if these two, if the two young bucks take another jump this year and get there, it's stunning to me that I'm going to sit here and tell you on the defensive side of the ball, but it could be.
Wow. See, I'm going offense, and I actually am surprised that you guys are going defense because to me on the offense, there are three that are basically baked-in guarantees for me. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Frank Ragnow, and Penei Sewell. I think that they're going to be shoo-ins. I'd also expect Jared Goff to potentially make it, especially given that Ben Johnson is coming back. The offensive line is still intact. David Montgomery, Jamison Williams is going to play for the last 11 games. And then maybe Jonah Jackson, who has made a Pro Bowl. The Lions have had 5 offensive players on this roster that have made Pro Bowls. The defense, believe it or not, 0. I expect Aiden Hutchinson to do it. I think that he would be the most likely. But even C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he has never made a Pro Bowl.
Well, he would have made it last year if they weren't in the Super Bowl.
Well, it's listed on the website that he didn't make it. So I thought that even if he would have, if he just didn't go because of the Super Bowl, they would have listed it. But you know what? Maybe he obviously deserved it. I think he had a season worthy of it. Cam Sutton has never made a Pro Bowl. There's more unknowns. Kirby Joseph, I'm a fan of his as well, but you just don't know. With the offense, there's guys that have done it, and you know what you're going to get from them. And obviously, I don't see anyone in the linebacking core getting it. Maybe James Houston if he has another crazy sack season. I got to go offense.
WoodwardSports.com chat thread Shane Sandrock says, I think Kirby gets 6 picks at least. He gets 6 picks. He's a Pro Bowler.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson got 6 last year. And according to what I've been looking at, he wasn't. And I'm not saying that he didn't deserve it. I'm not saying that Kirby wouldn't deserve it. But it doesn't guarantee you anything.
He gets 6 picks. They're going to win the division.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
He'll go to the Pro Bowl.
Okay, you know what? That parlay I could see. Yes.
I'm glad I could change your mind. Steve Wild says Aleem McNeil had the highest PFF grade ever by a defensive tackle against the Giants last year. And Steve, I'll allow it because it fits my narrative.
He had 13 pressures in that game.
And I'll go to it, and I'll accept a PFF comparison because it fits my narrative.
That's fair.
When it does not fit my narrative, I dismiss PFF and say, "Oh, I hear that all the time from PFF."
Yeah.
PFF has become the ultimate football political talking point, man, where you use it when it suits you, you dismiss it when it doesn't. It's wild to me.
Well, I was talking about it, and I was Spenny, you were talking about it. For that game against the Giants last year, he was Aaron Donald, he was Chris Jones, he was Quinnen Williams.
He was as good as anybody in the league.
100%.
Yeah.
So not shocking at all that PFF rated him as the highest defensive tackle for that game.
The biggest down in the game, third down.
Third down. Third question of the nickel package. Who will finish second on this team in receiving yards?
Jamison Williams.
Yeah.
The longer this goes on, and look, I know it's practice clips, but guys, I'm telling you, I've got a pretty good eye for this kind of stuff. He looks different than everybody else out there. You know what I'm saying? Like his release from the line of scrimmage, his top end speed, his acceleration. Guys, I'm telling you, man, I know you're upset about the gambling stuff and all that kind of, and what tweets he likes and things like that, or gram posts he likes. I know that upsets you and everything like that. When you open the garage, this man's a Ferrari. He is an absolute Ferrari, man. I'm telling, he is going to be big.
You know what, Neal? You are absolutely right. I agree. And part of it, for me, goes into the fact that they don't have another guy that I would be confident being a true number 2. I think that Josh Reynolds can do it in spurts. Khalif Raymond was their second leading receiver last year, and he's back. They don't really have a number 1 tight end, although we hope it's Sam Laporta, but I don't expect huge production from him next year. Jameson Williams, I agree with you. I am a little bit concerned with his usage and the fact that he's going to miss a ton of games, first year with injury and this year with gambling, but I expect him to come back and be the player that we all hoped he would.
And guess what?
Yes.
None of us will care.
Absolutely
the people that
absolutely
are shaking their fist in the air, J-Mo! They'll be like, yeah, J-Mo!
But he has to do it first. And I think that that's fair, and I think we would all agree with that, but I expect him to. I'm one of those people that Jameson Williams, I've said that. I've never seen anyone quite like him in college. I like to watch Alabama games. I've always liked to watch Alabama games, so I saw a lot of Jameson Williams. He's a complete receiver, but he's also the fastest man on every single field he basically walks onto. And he's going to be that in the NFL. How could he not be
in the streets,
productive?
they would call him a Rari.
Yeah.
Yes.
True.
Because that man is all Ferrari. I cannot wait.
Justin Slanik would say he's blazing.
He's blazing.
Yeah.
It is, though. Even last year, he is the first. See, Calvin was different because it wasn't speed.
It didn't. Calvin had speed, but it didn't look like, because just the long strides,
Yeah.
the fluidity of it. Yeah.
Like-
J-Mo's got the explosiveness.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm saying, like, even last year, when he got the ball those 3 times and scored a touchdown all 3. I know it's not the narrative that you've been given. The narrative is, well, he had 1 catch. You're not going to miss 1 catch.
Yeah.
Or you can look at it from the perspective I do, say he touched the ball 3 times in the NFL and scored a touchdown all 3 times he touched it. 1 got called back on a penalty. The other one, they said he was down at the half-yard line when he wasn't,
Yeah.
and they didn't care. They just ran it in anyway. He is exciting. He's the most exciting Lion I've seen since Barry. Just in the anticipation of him getting the ball. He is Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Like, I feel about him, I watch Tyreek Hill because I'm excited to see him play. I'm not asking him to raise my kids or anything like that. I'm not asking him to do anything in the community.
Yeah.
He's exciting to watch
Ask
play.
him to play football. And he's really good at that.
That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
And then at 4:15, he's done playing football, and I'll see you next Sunday. You know, like that. He's exciting, man. Like I can't wait for him.
Oh, yeah, and when we're talking about receiving yards, he's one of those guys that you could see him have a stat line in a couple of games of even 2 catches for 80 yards, and that will go a long way with pumping up his receiving yards numbers.
And that was where I
Yeah.
was driving at. Like
Yeah.
that will be an off game for him. 2 catches for 80 yards with no touchdowns.
I mean, if that's an off game for him, we're talking about him being one of the best receivers in the NFL going forward, which I believe he has the talent to. I really do.
Detroit Supremacy says DeAndre Hopkins will be second.
I'd like to hear that.
So
That
there's
was-
that one as well.
That was a sneaky answer I was thinking about giving, but I held off. So.
I understand he's beginning his tour, his recruiting tour,
Fuck yeah.
or whatever. So, Wyatt Bear says Ford versus Ferrari was based on Jameson Williams. So,
That's true.
Yeah. People Pleaser says Calvin ran a 4.3, bulldozed safeties, and jumped over 3 defensive. No, he explosive speed. You just didn't.
Yeah, Calvin was fast. He was really, really fast.
Yeah.
But, like, it didn't look like he was running that fast, but he was.
Justin Ford says you can't meet ride J-Mo until he plays. Well, he did play. He got the ball 3 times in an NFL game and scored a touchdown all 3 times. Go look it up. Go watch the plays. So yeah, what
And was
other
underthrown
guy
on
has
one.
that kind of impact?
And was underthrown on 1 more.
Yeah, so yeah, I can meet ride him because he has played 3 games. It's Big Package Friday.
Big package.
It's built
Friday.
on meat riding.
Absolutely.
4th down.
So next question of the Lions nickel package. Coming out of camp yesterday, Penei Sewell is taking a more vocal leadership role as requested by his teammates. Like, obviously, right? It's gotta happen.
You guys, I want to record. I want a recording of it. Anytime Penei Sewell becomes a conversation, and you just push the button to get my statement on it.
Yeah.
This guy will be the one. He will be the first one that gets the Lombardi Trophy. when they win it. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
He's the dude already. They're looking to, like, look at this. And I don't even know that they're looking to. It's just understood.
His teammates told him that he needs to speak up more.
And he probably doesn't because he's like, oh, well, I'm a young,
Yeah.
I'm a young player.
Yeah.
And, it's not my time. It's not my place. Guys, you know my feelings on this man. This is the guy that turned it all over. It was Brad Holmes, but on the field, Penei Sewell, mark my words. Much like I said, Nikola Jokic is the best player in the game 4 years ago when I was mocked and scorned, notably by the Data Davis people. Mark my words. 5 years from now, this man will be a cornerstone, not only in the National Football League, but in Detroit Lions lore.
You know what? And I will agree with that in 5 years. And Penei Sewell, he's arguably the best player on the team, pound for pound, position for position. He's the type of guy that I could see being an all-pro in the next couple of years. There's only a handful of guys on the Lions that have that kind of impact, and he plays the position on the unit that is the best Detroit Lions unit, and he's the guy that made it elite. So yeah, this isn't shocking at all. Penei Sewell is elite, and he is one of the best players on the team, arguably the best player on the team. So yeah, I love it.
Mr. K. Wells Forrest says Neal gets bricked up for Sewell.
Yes, you do.
I'm talking full-on masonry, full-on, like if you're going to I could build a deck with it.
That's fair. That's fair. Real quick, last
Fifth down.
question of the Lions nickel package. Who finishes with more passing yards next year, Jared Goff or Geno Smith?
It's got to be Goff. It's got to be. Please, for my sake. Hey, Goff, look, if you finish with less passing yards than Geno Smith, assuming everybody plays the same amount of games, then please win a playoff game. So then that way people can take the trick, but I'll come back with the Bauer and slam it on the table and say, hey, I made the point.
Oh, yeah.
Please. It's Goff, right?
But with this version of Geno, there's no real shame in losing out to him on passing yards, which is a stat that is selectively more important than other times. I actually think it's going to be Geno Smith who has more. And to me, it's more about working backwards. I think Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are two guys you can pretty much pencil in for 1,000 yards. You're going to get 23 to 2,500 yards between the two of them. And they just added Jackson Smith and Jigba, who could end up being the best wide receiver from this entire class. The Lions, at least in the first 6 games, they're Amon-Ra St. Brown and a bunch of dudes. No disrespect to Josh Reynolds and old Marvin Jones or Khalif Raymond or even rookie Sam Laporta. I just think with all the weapons that the Seattle Seahawks have, even with Kenneth Walker catching passes out of the backfield, I would go with Geno Smith.
Real quick, Shane Sandrock, simping for Sewell. Yes, I could redo the roads in my whole subdivision into brick.
Yes, you could.